I appreciate that, sir. Well, hey everybody. Hopefully everybody's day is starting off well, right? We're in the final week of submitted business for July. So hope you guys are wrapping up your goals and getting it knocked out and taken care of. So today, what I am going to talk about or chat about is I want to talk about the concept of working in versus on your business today. All right. Because it is important to be able to understand the two and what the differences are. So if you don't have a pen and paper out, get a pen and paper out, right? You're going to be taking some notes today. All right. Well, now that you guys have done that, I'm gonna break it down. What is working in your business, you guys? Well, working in your business, that means you're doing the everyday task. Pretty much you're an employee if you're working in your business, right? Because you're doing everything. You're the person that has to wear all the hats, right? You're focusing on different tasks, right? The day-to-day tasks. You're focused on assisting your clients, right? And actually, real fast, can you guys put in the chat who and this may seem super simple by the way, but this blew my mind when I heard it for the first time. I heard Brad Smith say it like a couple years ago. But who are our clients here at Symmetry? Everybody, everybody we talk. Somebody put everybody we talk to. 100%. Now, just to be a little bit more clear, everybody we talk to are not just the people that come out to us to be able to buy insurance, by the way. Symmetry, our other client are ourselves and our agents, right? So I just wanted to make that clear. When I heard Brad Smith give a speech, it was like I think like 3 years ago at this point, and he was like one of the a big not just our clients we serve with insurance, but also us as agents. We're also clients as well, right? We're also Symmetry's clients. So with that, to hop back in, when it comes to working in your business, right? When it comes to time frames, what are the things you're looking to be able to knock out as somebody that works in your business? You're working on things that are more short term, things are more urgent, things you have to get knocked out done this week. What are some examples of that? Right? You're running appointments, you're trying to close policies, trying to get business approved, right? You're doing some follow-up stuff, you're doing some admin tasks, responding to emails. Like those are examples of working in your business. All right. You're doing maybe first interviews, right? And I'll break down that here in a moment. But those are things that are working when you're working in your business. They keep your business running because they have to get done. They keep your business going. And the goal, right, or the result of what you're going to be able to get out of that, you're getting immediate income. That's why we're saying, hey, as a producer, you're earning now money. You're bringing in money now. It's more transactional. It's more instant. That is working in your business. Now I want to talk about working on your business. What's your role when you're working on your business, right? You're an owner. You're the CEO. You're the visionary. You're steering this ship and you're trying to be able to take it and you're taking it somewhere. All right. You're more strategic. You're focused on systems. You're focused on scalability, right? Because when you're working on your business or you're a CEO, you know everything doesn't depend on you and it can't depend on you, right? Because guess what? If you always are wearing the hat where you're doing everything in your business, you are not going to be able to scale at the end of the day. You have to learn how to be able to leverage. You have to learn how to be able to outsource because you're building a business, right? We all came here real fast. If you could put a one in the chat, we all came here for time, I'm assuming, right? Like I know I'm positive I'm not the only one, right? Because you guys are my people. So we came here for time. So if we came here for time, we have to learn how to also work on our business. But there's a couple of things I'm gonna talk about, right? Because there's a trap with that, by the way, with if you only work on your business. I'm gonna talk about that here in a second. But continue to work on your business, right? You're focused on more long-term things. They're important, but you're focused on some more long-term things. And you're trying to be able to build this in a bigger and better way. So guess what? So it can run without you. Again, if you always have to be in your business, do you really have a business? All right. So that's the differences between working in and working on. Some examples of working on your business for those of you guys taking notes. That's hiring an admin. to knock out those emails, send that onboarding paperwork, send the contracting, make sure LC and all those things are taken care of, right? You're not doing not interviews, but you're hiring and training new agents to get going. You're pouring into leadership, you're pouring into your agents to help them scale themselves. If you help your agents scale themselves, guess what? You're going to be able to ultimately scale your business at the end of the day, right? You're tracking your numbers and you're spending some time looking at your numbers so you can identify different bottlenecks in your business. Like, what are the holes? What are things that are wasting maybe you're putting too much time into that isn't giving you a big enough return. So you can identify that so you can focus on the things that will allow you to obviously scale a lot faster and the things that are working, right? You're leveraging automation, right? Symmetry does an amazing job for us in this because they have created so many things to make our lives easier when it comes to automation. If you think about just what they do with Switchboard and the text messages and the automations that go out there, right? Trying to give us Symmetry does so many things to be able to give us our time back. And then um what is your goal for this? Right? Your goal is to make systems to again make yourself less essential, right? You're trying to and you're transitioning from being an agent to being an agency owner to being an owner here. Right? That's the transition that you're trying to go through. But there's a couple things I want you guys to be aware of. There's a couple traps. All right. There's a couple traps with working on your business. There's some traps with working in your business too, but there's some traps. And you have to learn. The reason I'm telling you guys this today or wanting to train on this is because it's important to learn how to be able to do both. And I'm going to give you guys a breakdown of how to be able to go from one to the next as you're transitioning. Right. But the first trap when it comes to working on your business, if you spend all your time working on your business and thinking of systems and thinking of trying to scale and thinking of reinventing the wheel and trying to create all these things, guess what? You're never actually going to make money to fund your business and to take care of your life. And number one, I've been caught in that trap before. Right. I'm a pioneer creative. So I love living in the working on your business land at the end of the day. But it's really easy to spend your time there. Why? Because you're not dialing. You're not running appointments, you're not working your leads, and it feels so much easier and you're feeling productive, but you're not making any income and you're going to see yourself out of the business really quick. That's the trap with working on your business if you go into it too soon, right? A couple weeks ago I talked about going from survival to stability to vision, right? If you're in survival mode, you need to find a way to get to stability as fast as possible by working in your business as much as you can to make the income you need. So then you can focus on the vision because in my mind to work on your business, you do have to earn it. That is something you have to earn. If you come in brand new day one and be like, "Man, it is cool and it's okay to start thinking about those things, but not necessarily start taking action on those things if you're a brand new agent day one that is just trying to learn the ropes." Now, what's the trap of working in your business? Right? Working in your business, you're always stuck in the weeds. It's easier to get burnt out. But I think the biggest trap of always working in your business, number one, is you own a job at that point. You don't actually own a business. But more importantly, right, it's not gonna be there, it's not gonna function without you. It's not gonna function without you. You're only gonna make money when you're in there. And I want you to write these two questions down for me. First question, and this is a question I want you guys to be able to ask yourself. If you stop working in your business for 2 weeks, if you stop working in your business for 2 weeks, would it still run? Would you still have income coming in? Or would things get tight? Would you start stressing? If you want to take a family vacation and you're stressing about taking a family vacation and you're like, oh man, I can't take a family vacation just because I'm not like maybe you are building an agency and you're like, oh man, it's gonna like it may crumble, or oh man, like I have to produce, right? Well, it's not I have to, we get to at the end of the day, but there is that feeling like, man, while I'm on vacation, I do have to at the end of the day. Like I have had that feeling before. I've taken a trip with Ida, right? Whether it was her birthday, whether we went to like Mexico, and I'm like, I gotta run some appointments while we're here. I gotta keep this thing moving. I think what I heard before, again, when I was new, when you take a week off, it's like taking a month off here. You take 2 weeks off, it's like taking 2 months off. All right, so that's the first question. Second question, right? And this is kind of the working on your business. And I hired a business coach for myself back in December of 2023 to help keep myself organized and to help me look at this business a little bit different way so I can scale in the way that I want. And this business can work for me opposed to me working for it, right? But can you teach someone else to do those certain parts of your business, right? Can somebody do this particular task 80% as good as you, right? One of those things, again, going back to like, can you hire or teach somebody to send out new agent onboarding? Can you teach somebody to learn how to be able to do contracting or send that stuff out, to be able to put out little fires when an agent reaches out and say, "Hey, how do I put my bank info like into Share LC, or how do I complete my AML course?" Right? The AML isn't working. Can you hire somebody to teach, like, to be able to delegate that? Because you shouldn't be, those are little things you shouldn't be doing. And I was told this too very early on. You need to fire yourself. You should be firing yourself and hiring yourself to a new level, right? You need to fire yourself from doing the $10 an hour work so you can hire yourself to actually start doing the $100 an hour work. And then eventually, guess what? You're going to fire yourself from doing the $100 an hour work. Then you can hire yourself to do the $1,000 an hour work. But that all starts with working in your business, right? You have to start there. You can't just skip levels and go directly to the next one. It starts with working in your business. So I'm going to give you a couple things real fast, right? I'm going to give you 3 steps real quick. And these are like different stages of growth of where you're going to go through and what you're going to go through, especially if you're new. You're like Michael right now, right? Working on your business. It sounds amazing, but I need to work in it. Or maybe you're in a position where you're like, man, I've been working on my business, right? And I need to hop back into it. Well, stages of growth real fast, right? You're in a startup. If you're brand new, right? You're in a startup phase, right? You're in a position where you have to work in your business at the end of the day, because you have to make the money you need. You have to make the income you need to be able to support your family, to be able to fund and reinvest back into your business in the ways that you need to. But at the same time, this is where you actually start thinking about scaling. You start thinking about you can start thinking about those things. I remember when I was new, I heard Fred and Gabby say that. Well, I wasn't new. I guess at that point, I was like a year in. I was a key leader. Um, but at that, I heard them say on a call, right? Create a blueprint. I was during this was during my AO run. I think this was like month 1 of my AO run. I heard them say this on a call. It was like, create a blueprint for your agency, right? If you were to step away from your agency, somebody can read this and be like, this is how the agency should be ran. And I remember hearing that, and I was like, well, dang, what do I want my agency to look like? Now, I didn't do this. I wasn't at 80% contract level. This was in my AO run, right? I was like, what do I want my agency to look like? What do I want the people in my agency to feel when they come into my agency, right? What do I want the culture to be, right? I started thinking about all these things, and because it made sense. Why did it make so much sense? Why? Because I don't want to have to work in my business forever. So I remember creating that before I was kind of it wasn't immediate. It took me like 2 months to be able to do that because I was crafting it as I was on my AO run, right? When you're working on your business, you guys, you're not spending a ton of time. This is not an 8-hour task a day type of thing, right? You learn how to be able to set some time aside throughout the week to be able to, during non-income producing hours, by the way. Non-income producing hours is when you work on your business, just in case you didn't know. But that's the startup phase, right? Then you're going to transition into the growth phase, right? Now you're going to be hiring help, right? Things I hear all the time is, man, I should have hired somebody faster. I should have hired an admin. I should have hired an admin sooner, right? But you're gonna start hiring help for yourself. You're gonna actually start implementing systems, right? Before you try to create a brand new system, go to your agency owner, go to your upline, go to your direct 130, figure out what they do and how can you learn from that or implement it. Right? You don't always have to go create something brand new. Honestly, I probably advise against it because Symmetry is a turnkey business where so many things are already created for us. Just be curious enough to go out there and learn what's already there, opposed to keeping your ego high and be like, you know what, I'm gonna create the next best thing. And this is where, when you're in that growth phase, this is where you're splitting it up. You're still working in your business, but you're working on your business at the same time, right? And there's a split. That is where I am right now. I still go out there and actively produce. I still go out there and actively interview. I am still working in my business, right? But there are moments where I get to work where I have earned the right to be able to work on my business more just to be able to scale to where I want this to be able to go, right? And then the final stage to this is just when you're just in straight scaling mode, right? You get to you're pouring into agents, you're developing leaders, right? You have the systems in place. Now it's just about learning how to be able to multiply yourself down into other people. So with that, Jim, that is that's what I got today. I try to keep it to time.
No, man, I love that. And it's such a good reminder for even me in taking a look very critically at when I look at the business, what are the things I have to do? I can't delegate. That the things that if
Mhm.
Jim Larson doesn't do it, like I'm out of business. What are those things? And then what are the things that I should look to leverage? I should look outside of myself to delegate. Those are really important, guys. And when we talk about systems, I need you to understand you all have a system for everything in your business. It may not be a good system, but you have a system. So taking a look at what your system is so important. It's so important. I like for so many people, your system when you're new is nothing more than sticky notes and what you happen to remember. Now, that's not a good system and it will break very quickly, but it is a system. The problem we run into with systems is we don't realize we need a system upgrade until the current system breaks. So your sticky notes and your memory, they work until you drop the ball, till you forget an appointment, till you forget to call someone back and you're like, crap, I never want to be in that position again. You need a new system. The problem with waiting until the system breaks is now you're busy. You're so busy, you're at a place your system broke. So now trying to take busy, overwhelm, broken system, slow down and try to create a new system that can handle where you're at, taking that time away gets almost impossible because you're scattered and busy and feeling like you're dropping the ball everywhere already. That gets hard. It is way better to take the advice of Michael Matthews. Be proactive before you have to be reactive to create your blueprints, create your systems, create and put in place the things that can scale to where you want to be instead of just waiting for the wheels to fall off the bus of what you're currently doing before you upgrade to a system that works. And that's what we're talking about here, guys. Leveraging, hiring, scaling, blueprints. We're talking about systems. When someone comes into the funnel, whether it's a new agent or whether it's a client, what happens? What is automated? What requires you? What is the scheduling, the reminders, the onboarding from anyone you touch in your business? There is a system in what happens with that person. Upgrade your system to scale where you want to be before you have to reactively upgrade your system because that's when things get really, really sticky.
And can
Dude,
I add one more thing here,
yeah,
Jim?
go rock out, man.
Um,
I love the free flow conversation.
no, because what you said, right? Like, do it like proactively do it opposed instead of like reacting to it eventually, right? My business coach told me, he was like, Michael, he was like, do things because they're important, not because they became urgent.
Let's
Because
go.
I have put myself in those positions a ton, right? Because I have the shiny object syndrome sometimes, right? When I'm looking over and I stop doing a task and then I procrastinate and then things become urgent. I was like, oh snap, now I have to do it. But the other thing I did want to mention, too, was in my notes and I forgot to mention it, is we all have a prime opportunity to work on our business coming up where you're going to be stepping outside of working in and you're going to be able to work on, and that's with conference coming up, right? Where you're going to be able to work on because you're going to be able to learn so many different things, right? Hear from so many different people and how they implement and their perspective and how they grew, right? And you're going to be able to take things away from them to be like, all right, this is what I'm going to implement, right? Like Jim said, we all have a system. This is what I'm going to be able to implement. This is what I'm going to be able to take action on, right? Because those 3 days while we're at conference, that Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, You're not dialing, you're not running. You may be actually. I know if you're in that position, I did, right? When my first conference,
We conference
yeah,
one, man, conference one.
yeah.
I was hustling.
We have all been there, right? Where we had to do that, right? Because so I have been there. But for some of you, you may not. And this is, but either way, conference is a prime opportunity to be able to learn how to work on your business better.
I'll tell you, Conference One, those of you flying into Denver for the first time, the train will take you from the airport to about walking distance. It's an uphill walk, and when you got luggage, it can be a little sweaty in the summer. But I was so broke, Conference One, I'm hustling up that hill carrying my luggage with my backpack. I sold an SBLI app on the train between the airport and the train station. Straight up came in through switchboard, all text, didn't even get on the phone with the guy. All text, pulled up SBLI, was so mobile friendly, and sold that. And yeah, conference one, man, I was diving out, I was making calls, I was running appointments. Like you have to do what you've got to do at times. But good reminders. All right, guys, I'm opening up breakout rooms and stopping the recording here.